Hello, welcome to Persona Grata. I'm Katie Eden Todd, and today we're discussing cellmate or soulmate relationships. Aren't relationships the hardest thing in the world to try and navigate? And we never went to school to learn how to do relationships. So I'm interested to see, just make sure we've got people there, I'm interested to see, how are you going in your relationships? Are they stale? Are they awful? Are they good? Are they exciting? Or have we sort of lost our way and we're on survival mode? It can be really, really tricky having a nice, live, vibrant relationship. And there are skills that we need to learn that can really make all the difference. So I'm really excited to try Sunday mornings with a cuppa. Got my cup of coffee all ready to go to see who's here and see what you'd like to have discussed in relationships. I think this is going to be the first of many relationship videos. So one of the first things we've got to look at with a couple, whatever they may be or however long you've been together, is we've all got, hi Cindy, we've all got shadow traits. These are the things you wouldn't put on your CV. We've all got shadow sides and we've all got light sides, great gifts that we can offer. And one of the things we need to do in relationships is to be able to see and get, hi Shiana, we have got to be able to understand who our partners are and not try to change them. Anyone been guilty of that? Hello. Guilty of thinking, oh, they're not really like that. And when I'm with them, I'll be able to mold them this way, I'll mold them that way. Or they don't really mean what they're saying. That's not really how they are. Trust me, that is how they are. So in a partnership, what we've got to be able to do is accept that we have some shadow traits and that we make mistakes. And I would ask straight up, how good are you at saying, I'm sorry, I got that wrong? Some of you have started coming to my work, the persona work that I'm doing with my User Guide to Humans ebook, and you'll see how all our personalities are unique. Completely unique, and every persona, be it a dog or a swan or a raven or a child, nightingale, light nightingale, whatever, they've all got light and shadow sides. So we're not just one thing or the other. It's not just one person's fault, hi Rachel, or another person's fault. It's about when we get into a partnership, what we're doing is we're committing to walking side by side with each other, not to change, but to grow together. To be able to see when the other person's in child and they're struggling and realise that's probably not the time to say, you're in child, you need to get your act together. That we need to be able to see when someone's struggling, not react, and how to handle this better. And it really, really helps knowing your personas. It really, really helps being able to say, wow, he's in dog at the moment and he's really, really not doing well. Hi Nigel, lovely to have you. This one's not doing so well, and you give them space and we understand what's going on and we come back to it later. A couple of days ago, I was quite tense all day, a little bit sharp, not nasty towards my husband, but I was just a bit tense and I was really, really busy. So I did not have time to stop and think, what's going on? Am I okay? What's happening? What am I reacting to? And my beautiful husband, Trevor, waited all day until we went to bed, hi Lisa, and said, you were just a little bit not yourself today. How gentle is that? You were just a little bit uptight, a little bit tense. And I was able to say, gold stars for both of us, actually, yes, I was aware of that all day. I didn't take it as an attack. I didn't feel like I was being criticised. I heard it as, would you like to just have a little chat about it for a moment and just see what was going on? Which we duly did, and then I was able to see, I've overcommitted here, I've overcommitted there, I'm torn, I need to make some changes, and immediately I came back to being centred again. That's the art of great relationships. That's the art of sensing. If he'd come in when I was very busy and said, you're really tense, or you're really this, or what's wrong with you? Do we not all speak like this? If that had happened because I was in child, because I was triggered, I would have gone for him, quite likely, or been defensive. Now, knowing when we're defensive and what your partner's style of being defensive is a great, great skill. It's a great skill to know so that you don't go there. Always step back and have some space. But today I wanted to have a look at cellmates or soulmates. So the cellmate is when we're in child of any of our personas. And you've got three really strong ones. The one is dominant. And then you've got these other ones that sort of seep in and they influence your top three. But it's really great to have a good idea about who your partners and your own personas are. Because at home, we're going to see the secret three that come in underneath. And you need to be able to tell what's going on with each. So a soulmate relationship is we're both in child, we're having power struggles, we're cross with each other, we're unsatisfied, we're probably looking to the other to fill our holes. We're looking to the other person to make me feel happy, to fulfill me. And there's reasons why we have this that are quite deep and quite complicated. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how we get into a soulmate relationship, how we choose the partners we do. And I want to talk about some great skills that you can have that can shift you into an adult partnership. And that's what I call a soulmate relationship, where we're agreeing we're going to fail and fall over. Hi, Kelly. You found me a week ago, Kelly. It's so lovely. And it's great to have a couple here that are working through this together. It takes two to sort out a relationship, people, not one person and the other one being defensive. So we want to move our relationships, which all go into soulmates at time, into a soulmate, and we need those skills. So we need to know who we are when we're in child and when we're adult. That's for you to have a look at in the book. But today, let's have a look at how we choose our partners. Okay, I worked out this theory a few years ago, where people choose family replicas for their partners. Now, what I mean by family replicas is this. In your childhood, you came into the world and we're probably loved and adored as best our parents can, and we are centre of the world. And then in our family relationships, we have some knocks start to happen to us around 2, which I'm going to come back to. We have some knocks start to happen to us and we start to realise we're not the centre of the world. And then as we're growing up, there can be one or both parents or a sibling or step-parents, whoever, who we have a difficult relationship with and who we feel do not understand us. They don't get us, they can't validate us, and we feel deeply unseen and unloved. Now what this does is it triggers our fears that we all are born with. We have particular fears attached to our personas. It triggers our particular fears of why I'm unlovable. So the child always, and when we're in child, remember we're under 5, so we're doing this ourselves anyway. The child always looks externally. Can you tell me that you love me? Can you show me that you love me? Did you look at me the right way? Did you say the right thing? Did you smile the right time? The child in people are continually looking to external sources for self-worth. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So we do that as little kids. And if you think now about your childhood, was there a particular person that you felt you had the most conflict with, the most pain with in your relationship? Who was it that you maybe were at war with, or just there was an indifference or a neglect? Is anyone there able to think, yeah, I know it's that one? So I have that, of course, as well. Now, what happens? In childhood, we keep battling with this person, and it's their personas that don't get us. We've often got very different personas, so we've got no idea who they are, and they don't understand us. And that's very painful for us as little kids, because if our parents don't have similar traits and values and styles, we can feel repressed. We can feel that we're not loved. So when we grow up, after what's ever happened, someone has literally had this conversation about my marriage. We married versions of our parents. Exactly. So, I might have married my dad in my first marriage, and he might have married his dad. Or it could be that it was the sister, and it's actually not the two of us that are there. It's the projections of the parent or the sibling that we had the most pain with, that we're in a relationship with. That's a soulmate relationship, where it's actually projections from the past in play, and it's not who we are in ourselves. Hi, Laura. Great to have you, darling. So when we choose family replicas, as we go on in life, we can't do much about our parents or this painful situation, and it sets up scars inside of us, and it sets up a hole inside of us that is there lurking in our unconscious, and we're 98% unconscious, remember. So we've got this pain, and then out we go into relationships. Hi, Mel. Out we go into relationships. Already go fearful, awkward. Am I lovable? I certainly didn't think I was lovable. I thought I was absolutely revoltingly dark and ugly and hateful. So here we go, we're out in there, and we meet someone, and there's this flash, and there's an intensity, and our child goes, I'm falling in love. I'm going to challenge that. What usually happens is that, oh great Michelle, I'm so glad to see you here. What usually happens is we will have a significant partnership with someone who is very similar, if not the same, combination of personas as the parent or the sibling or the step-parent or the grandparent that we had the most difficulty with. So we attach to this person and we feel such familiarity and we feel such strength of connection. We call it love. I would call it a lack, and that we've chosen from child, from lack, from pain, that I need you, who's just like my dad, my mum, my sibling, whoever. I need you to love me, and that will fix my childhood wounds. Yay, fantastic. And then I'll know forever I really am lovable. But when you choose someone who's a family replica, they are emotionally exactly at the same place in degree of child to adult, exactly the same place as the original family member. So how the original family member did not see you, hi Brian, how the original family member did not see you is usually what will happen in your relationship, be it the first marriage or a big significant relationship. So you have the same pain happening again, and this has a devastating effect on our trust in love, a devastating effect in our trust in our lovability, and in our trust of others. Are there people out there watching today who are thinking, oh, I just don't trust men, I just don't trust women, I don't love. Actually, what you're saying is, I don't trust that I'm lovable. It's a whole nother conversation. But it is inevitable that we are going to choose unconsciously from lack, from wanting our whole filled to have, hi Michelle, that we're wanting to have that love hole filled by the other person. And how perfect is it that our psyches are going to gravitate like a magnet, a compulsive magnet, to someone who's very like that person who didn't get it. Is everyone getting this as I'm explaining it? It's weird when you talk to yourself. So I'm hoping this is making sense. So you choose that partner, and then of course we go into the same problems that we had before. But this time, because you've already got a big wound there, the frustrations, the pain, the upset, the not sure how to turn comments on, I can't help you. The pain of having that wound re-infected, if you like, re-cut open. What happens to us in these cellmate relationships is that our self-esteem falls down lower. And we fall into child. We start crying a lot, we get angry a lot, we get demanding. Thanks, Janice. We shut down, we punish each other. It's really, really important to own here. When we are in child, oh great, Crystal. When we're in child, we want to inflict the pain we're feeling onto our partner. Now you don't when you're an adult, but for fuck's sake, people, most people on the planet are in child most of the time, meaning they're under 5 years of age. Getting it now, finally. Yeah, I didn't start as well as I should have done, Nigel. I'm getting there. Takes a bit of a warm-up. So, we unconsciously choose that family replica that reignites and reinfests the wounds and the fears that we came in to heal, that we're born with. Our fears, which if you look at your personas, you'll find out what those particular fears are. I'm not good enough, I'm hated, I'm a failure, I don't belong, I'm an outcast, whatever your story is. Those fears will get ignited by the family that we're born into. And then we will go and find an adult partner in age, not in emotions. We'll find an adult partner to replay that same script. It's like we're on Shakespeare's play, and we're walking onto stage and then we go and relive that same cycle. And the point is, one of us is going to have to wake up. You're going to have to see, is this just a repeat of my childhood that I've created? Now, I've worked with clients who have actually had relationships with all their family members. It's just amazing. Yep, that one was really awful. That was my mum. That one was my dad. Oh yeah, and I had a difficult brother, a difficult sister. Oh my God, those last two people, that's who they were. Amazing. In a way, a soulmate relationship needs to be someone you've never been with before. It's like I'm stepping out of that old tired script. Oh, you've told my husband for now that he was acting exactly like my dad. And of course, Crystal, you were reacting exactly to your husband like you were to your dad. And your frustrations were just peaked. Now, when we are in relationships that don't work and they're not family replicas, it's easier to leave. Can you understand perhaps now a whole lot better The reason we stay for so long with a family replica is I think we've got a soul contract. I think we've got lessons. I think we've got emotional things that we need to own in ourselves and grow through. And not every partnership is here to be happily ever after. That's not the point. We're here for soul lessons, people. We're not here for let's have a nice life. Earth is a school. It's a tough school. And relationships is where it gets really tough, because we might be able to have a nice face out to the world, but at home we're going to see all our warts and all. We're going to see all our warts and all. Exactly, Crystal. Well done. Kelly said she married a younger version of her adolescent father. Oh, fantastic. So when you're an adult, that changes, Nigel. So when you shift out of that, but when you're a child, that's like that. Gee, I struggled with both my parents. Some people will have a relationship with a bit of a combination of both parents, or a combination of a parent and a sibling. My partner was smart enough to observe my interactions with my parents and pointed out all of the above. Clever partner. Okay, when we are in these relationships and they get stuck in the same place, it's like cellmates, it's power struggles, it's child, it's blame, it's inflicting pain, it's hurt. I'm so offended, I'm so outraged, I'm so whatever your particular persona traits are. It's I don't want to leave, because the child won't let you go, and it can get worse and worse and worse. And people go and tell their friends or their siblings perhaps about how awful it is in this partnership or this marriage, and they don't go. They stay and they stay, and eventually people get fed up with hearing the same old stories about how awful our relationships are. I'm guilty of this too in my first marriage, how awful they are, and we complain about it, but we don't do anything. Why don't we go? It's like we're so dumb. We're deaf, we're blind, we're really stubborn. Well, we're in child. And unconsciously, our child doesn't want to leave this person. It has to be the family replica that loves me. Because the underlying agenda in the child is, if I get you to love me, then my self-esteem issues are fixed. Then my ability to love and to be the person I became in the world is fixed. My childhood is fixed. I've got to save you. I've got to fix you. That's where I started, where we want to change people. We do that and it's awful. That is not love. That is not love. Changing someone is not love. Love is I get you who you are. Oh, your mum just joined. How fantastic. Wonderful when families can start to understand and let go of all the judgments, because we've all got our shadow sides. We've all made awful mistakes, but you're supposed to. Whatever the shadows are of your personas, you're inevitably going to go there a lot. It's a matter of how often and for how long. And are you able to see this and own them and start to be able to reflect on what's the impact of how I'm being on another person, on my partner and my kids as well. So when we're in child, we are very self-absorbed and we have no ability to be able to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and feel what it must be like to have to live with us. Feel what it must be like to have us behave in the way that we do. We don't have empathy. An under 5-year-old doesn't have empathy. And so it's all about blame. It's about us. And we get shocked. We may cry and beg and yell and throw ultimatums. We may do all of those things. But it seems to make no difference. And when a person's in child, they can't hear you. All they can hear and feel is this desperation and this pain. I'm not getting the love I need. And then we get more defensive about maybe I'm unlovable, and the more defensive we are, the more we will attack, or we will gaslight, or we will shut down the other and be completely unavailable in a relationship. Okay, so you've had relationships, Kaz, with both parents. This is so common. I say, see if you can have a relationship with someone who's totally unfamiliar to you. The way to get to have a soulmate partner in choosing, if you're single out there. Hi, Nikki. I left a terrible soulmate marriage thanks to learning this, and now you're in a soulmate. And your child's tried to sabotage it. Indeed, we try to go back to the same old patterns. We try to set up the same old script that we came from in our childhood. This is like default setting. And even though it's painful, it's like we keep pushing to go back to that. It's just incredible. But if you understand you're emotionally in child at that point, and that love, whether we're lovable, and the fear of whether we're lovable or not, is the greatest thing that scares us the most. And the child When we're in child, we repel love. We're terrified of love. Now, I want to get to why might we be terrified of love. And this is something that just came to me a couple of weeks ago when I was working with a couple of fabulous people. So you get the family replica concept. I'm sure I'm going to be coming back to do lots of relationship lives about soulmates, from soulmate to soulmate lives, because it's a huge topic and there's so many layers to learn and specifics about, well, how does a beaver react to a swan, and all of those things we're going to get to in time, people. But we might not get it all done in an hour. I doubt it. So I was thinking about when we're babies, and not in everyone's case, of course, but in a lot of people's cases. You know, in your first year, in those first months, you're adored, and when you cry, you're fed or you're bathed or your nappy's changed, and you're the centre of the world. And you feel very, very important. It's a lovely feeling. It's a lovely feeling to have the parents sort of doting on you and smiling at you and cooing at your every little nuance. But from, 14, 15, 16 months, 18 months to 2 years, we start to realise that when we squawk, the world doesn't stop and meet our needs. It doesn't happen. When we call it the terrible twos. And this is when we start to realise we're not connected with the mother. We're not totally there with the mother or the parent. You have dads who do the soul parenting from home as well. I'm suddenly not the centre of attention, and we will behave accordingly, according to our personas. We may have tantrums, screaming, manipulate, see what we can do, and that's the testing time that we find. I think when we fall in love, unconsciously, we get so excited, and we're really blind, aren't we? Everything's wonderful, life looks amazing, our capacity for intimacy and sharing is huge, and we have the endorphins going off. I think it reminds us of when we were a baby. I think it reminds us of that time when we were central, and it feels like we're projecting an enormous amount when we fall in love. And I fell in love with my husband, my current husband, Trevor, my husband. That's meant to be a joke, by the way. When I saw him in certain ways, and then 2 years on, who I thought he was and who he is, I tell you what, there's so many things that I just did not see because I was blind to them. There were things that were testing for me and good, like the sparrow and the high peacock and the dog, but in a way they were gifts to me because they were exactly what I needed to learn. But when I first saw him, I'm still projecting. We're still idealising a lot. Now, I've forgotten my development theories, Michelle. So this will be development theories, absolutely, and I'm lazy and I did not check them out. So you can have a look and see what happens with the falling in love stage, and then we have the separation stage that happens around the terrible twos. I think this happens when we fall in love. Remember, we've come through our childhood and we've been wounded. We definitely have been wounded. We've had pain, we've had rejection, we've had shocks, we've had reflections back to us that we're a bad person or we're not good enough or we're not worthy, or we've certainly interpreted painful moments as telling us that about ourselves. And so when we have a partnership, a significant one, those fears are not very far below the surface. We fall in love, we think, oh great, I can come back to heaven and nirvana. This is exactly what I want. Fantastic. And then some of the projections and the idealizations that we have of people start to peel away. We start to see who they are. And our capacity for intimacy that was wide open starts to close down little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit. We get back to our original setting, which is often not very great at all. We're not actually very capable of being intimate and adult and present and vulnerable and honest. So we start shutting down, and then people mourn that honeymoon stage that it's over. And a lot of people stay stubbornly in family replica relationships because they had all these idealizations and projections going on. And they wish that we could get back to that. Never mind that it's 13 years or 18 years later. Haven't been there for how long? 12 years? 17 years? No, I just wish it was like that. If you hear yourself saying, oh, I just wish this, I just wish that, if only, we're not dealing with reality. What is the reality of the relationship right now? That's the question. Where are we actually now? And what do we need to do to start building some bridges to go from cellmate to soulmate? So we like to fall in love. Some people are addicted to falling in love. So they last in relationships, hi Judy, they last in relationships for a set period and then they're off. You could set your clock by George Clooney before he married Amal, where he was 2 years. That was it. 2 years, gorgeous women, fabulous. Then he's off to the next one. 2 years, then he's off to the next one. It's like you get to that threshold. And then the old child, fears of love, fears of rejection, and this isn't quite right. You're not meeting me perfectly. Because remember, the child is wanting that parenting as well, that unconditional love parent lover figure, which is so unrealistic, so difficult. So we don't even know we're carrying all this stuff in, do we? And we wonder why our relationships get a bit tricky. We wonder why they get difficult. So can people relate to what I'm talking about, that honeymoon stage? I hope you do something about of long distance love. Oh, hello, Jen. Long distance lovers, you have that in your life. That's a tricky one as well. That's a tricky one. Yeah, we'll put that one to the side, but I'll make a note of that afterwards for sure. So, people have asked me in relationships now, looking at your personas, are there some personas that you should look for or some personas you shouldn't look for? They want a recipe. Well, soul contracts don't work like this. You can relate to the honeymoon stage, Cindy. Fantastic. Yes, 2 years. Aha, right, great. Long distance. Well, then one of you's got to have to work out, are we going to have a real relationship? Remember, the child is more frightened of love than anything else in the world. More frightened of love than anything else in the world. So we have so many defenses, so many abilities, behavioural responses and emotional responses of how to repel love. And this is what happens all the time. And then we deny it. What's wrong with you? I didn't do anything wrong. You're being critical. You're nagging me. You're this. And then we push away. If you want to see what your repellent behaviours are to love and to the love of your life soulmate relationship, have a read. Hi, Carol. Have a read of The Child in the Persona book, User Guide for Humans. Just read that. You need to reread your personas over and over again. And then you need to reread your partner's personas over and over again. So you have the empathy and the sensitivity to be able to see when they're struggling, they're in pain, they're in self-rejection, and they're not doing well. And yes, they've gone into cold swan or hot swan or pleasing Suki dog or whatever they've done, wherever they are. You need to be able to see that and behave from adult and not slip down with them and go into the child battles that we all do. The greatest and most vital soulmate skill is to see when the other partner is going into child and for you to stay there, even though your child is itching to do your favourite reaction. That's the key. And if you can do that and take a breath and leave them be and come back, that is the action of love. I hear so many people say, but I so love them. I love them so much. I need them so much. I love them so much. My God, I get bored. I get so bored. For fuck's sake, I get really cross sometimes. Then it's not love at all. What I'm hearing is a needy little child saying, this person matched my lack wound perfectly and I really need them to love me and I need them this much. Yeah, I'll be subservient and be walked all over and put up with worse and worse and worse things to myself, and I'll pretend that I'm being virtuous and that it's love. Well, it's a painful lesson, isn't it? Life's really painful. These lessons are hard in relationships. They really, really are. So we stay too long with family replicas. It's much easier to leave when they're not a family replica. But we stay a bloody long time until we've learnt what we came to learn, which was, I feel abandoned by you. Oh, I must be abandoning myself. Remember the mirror, mirror. What we accuse, we also get the level of love back from a partner that we actually feel like we deserve. That's a bit shocking, isn't it? We've got to own the dynamics of our relationships. We've got to own that I might think in my head, oh, I've done so much work on myself. Oh, I'm so evolved. We've got to stick by marriage as being both of us living in child. You're better friends than in a relationship. You can be friends with the soulmate. You've got a soul contract with these partners that we've both been in child, but it doesn't mean that you were compatible or ideal to be walking together in life, supporting each other, loving each other, growing together, owning everything together, walking side by side, not codependently, helping the other be the biggest, best version of themselves. Those people usually are not those partners. But it doesn't mean there's not a soul love underneath. It's not the same as being in love or that we should be married or together in a de facto relationship. We can have compassion for ourselves when you understand these theories and know that that's why I chose that. I'm not stupid. I'm not unlovable. I'm not going to be on my own forever and I always get it wrong. No, I went where my child needed me to go, but I can be a wake-up now. When I sense I'm with someone who's very familiar energetically, persona-wise, to my mum, my dad, or whoever the key trigger ones are for you, I can run for the hills. I'm off. I'll still be drawn to my particular type. That's not right for me. Yeah, Crystal, aren't you doing great? Look at all the people responding to you. I love people's honesty and vulnerability here. This is great. That's what this work's all about. So, where we are now, I always say my hubby is like my dad, but an improved version. Oh, you're so lucky, Joanne. That's a rare story. Rare story. Go for it. Very happy for you. So, we've got to be able to both own that we came in not really understanding and loving ourselves, and that the partner we have reflected the degree of genuine self-worth we had. What you put up with, you enable. You're actually making a statement of, that's what I'm worth. And what's tragic, and I'm sure you've had friends or yourselves or family members where you see people stay for a long, long, long time, and the incidents that are horrible become more frequent and they become worse, and yet still that person will not leave. And they're just stuck like super glue codependently to this family replica. They're 100% in child. That's why you keep choosing emotionally unavailable, selfish people. Okay, so we keep going because the child is stubborn. It's like, well, it's not you, I'll find someone else who's like that. We call it falling in love. We call it falling in love. We've got to fall in love with ourselves. We've got to fall in love with our shadow. We've got to be able to look at our shadows and go, I could not have the light side of myself without this, but I am willing and I want to own every time I go there. I don't necessarily want to be confronted about it in that precise second, but when the time is right, I want to be able to be in a relationship where we can discuss together. I'm sorry I was really unavailable there. I'm sorry I was really triggered there. It actually wasn't about you because it's mine. Our reactions are 100% our responsibility. 100% our responsibility. If we keep putting ourselves in a place where we get triggered over and over and over again with the things that wounded us the most as children, then we are going to be the worst version of ourselves. When you see yourself behaving as the worst version of yourself, your belief in your lovability keeps coming down. Yeah? Keeps coming down. When we are in a soulmate relationship, it's like chalk and cheese. Or when we've learnt to love ourselves and own things, we start having intimate, vulnerable discussions with our partners. We want to love more. We want to hold our tongue because we want to preserve the entity that is us, and we don't want to hurt that other person because we can see the damage that we've done before. If you have a look at the appendix in the back of User Guide to Humans, you'll see summarised how we arc up, how we sabotage love, how we repel love. My belief is that everyone is here to learn about their relationship with love. That's the universal level on the planet, and we're all up to it in different stages, and we've all got particular lessons in it. And my belief is you have this love-hate relationship with love, and when we're in child, we don't want it. We'll settle for other things. We'll pull back, we'll shut down. But that's like having a karmic holiday, people. That's like not letting yourself really come to grips with where am I up to with love, and learning the gift of adult love, of sacrifice, of compromise, of negotiation, of having my things triggered and being able to own them and go, wow, I need to look at this now. Thank you for triggering that in me so I can work on myself. It's when we're in partnership that you start to find out where you are in love. I've had lots of people come and see me and they've done lots of good work and they've learned how to be with themselves and not see that being alone is no one wants me, I'm so lonely, poor me, I've got to be with someone just to feel like I'm wanted, even though you're unwanted where you're staying. That happens a lot with dogs and with sparrows. But when people say, I've done so much work, and then they get into a relationship and they're shocked because they're triggered left, right and centre. I thought I'd dealt with this work. I thought I'd come to this. I thought I knew what I was doing. And yet that's where we find out where we really are. You know, that's the best classroom in the world for where we are with love. So I wanted to say a little bit about the personas, about how some of them can be. Now, I have looked at people's maps, and I'm writing the second book now, How I Navigate Life. to show you your maps and who you are in relationships, who you are at home. That's really, really interesting stuff, and I'll do some lives on that when that's out in not that long away, I hope. But I've looked at maps where there are very similar persona mixes. They've got 4 or 5 the same, and you think, wow, this should have worked just so well. But in a particular instance I'm thinking of, one of the people in the relationship was so in child, was so defensive, was so easily triggered that it didn't matter what they did, even though they had lots of things in common. They had interests in common, they had ways of life in common, they had values in common, what they thought mattered in the world was in common, where they wanted to live was similar, what they'd like to do on a weekend was similar. And you'd think this should work. And it absolutely did not work. Not at all. When I've seen other people, if you have a look at your partner's personas, and out of the 6, and you have your personas, how many have you got in common? My husband and I have 3 the same, and 3 different. Really interesting. And so we agree on those things very strongly. And then the oppositions, the ones that we don't have, are actually, when we're an adult, they're showing us what we need to learn. What I need to learn much more about light dog and much more about light sparrow, because I haven't got any. I'm completely useless. So I need that lightness to come in. I need that lightness and that love and that kindness. I'm a missing dog. I need that kindness. Have a look at the missing animal that you have and the missing animal that your partner has. Only 2 the same. Can still work a treat, Katrina. It can still work a treat. That would say to me that you're really wanting to grow a lot this lifetime, that you're really wanting to stretch yourself a lot and say, I've got mine and I'm doing well learning how to move mine from child to adult, but the ones I don't have, and we call this moon work, which is coming in book 6, so I've just jumped ahead there a little bit, but learning about the ones that you don't have and how can I adopt the light traits of the ones I don't have. I tell you what, that's how you become the most complete, most brilliant version of yourself you'll ever be. It's not enough just to do your 6 and the missing animal. It's actually, you do know this because you're a raven. We know. We always say, I know. You do know this because you learn so much. So learning these light traits. However, if you're with a partner who's constantly in child, you will find that the personas you don't have, you can't stand them when they're in child. So if my husband's in child dog or child sparrow, honestly, I could take a fry pan to him quite happily. Fortunately, I love him so much that I do not take a fry pan to him quite often. I did with my poor first husband. I used to get absolutely enraged. This one, I take a deep breath and think, oh, for fuck's sake. And then think what a saint I am that I didn't say anything. Honestly, I've improved so much. Someone's saying here, child owl grates you because you don't have an owl, Cindy. So those people will trigger you all the time. Child owl, oh God, where's my weapon? Yes, I'm exactly the same. Cannot abide child owls. So obviously, I don't have owl and I have to learn how to handle that. And if I come from child raven to have a go at the child owl, we're going to have the same conversation, the same argument over and over again. And we never have the bridge coming across to each other. This work is about learning how to step into someone else's shoes and be able to understand how they tick, what they feel, what matters to them. And so you can start to have a conversation in terms of their values and find a way. But it takes 2 to want to get there. Okay, yours is a strong beaver and I'm missing beaver. That often happens. So our partner can have the animal that we're weakest in. So it annoys us. I know I've got friends who've got that. Your swan arcs up at the owl because of the arguments. Yeah, but also your swan is insecure and feels like they're going to be able to out-argue you because school's not your thing, swan. Beaver might be, but your swan isn't. And then they feel an outcast, they feel like they're being put down and all their history comes in and the owl feels like it's supercilious and superior, and swans and owls have terrible wars about that stuff. Trust me. Also, the sparrow is really, really insecure around an owl. Because the sparrow fears, I'm not going to get this, I don't understand it. And then the owl goes, oh my God, did you not know what I was talking about? Have you not heard of that? Really? Oh my God, how stupid are you? Now you might say it or the look on your face says it. More likely from an owl. The raven would say it. The owl will go, how stupid are you? So the owl's just thinking it. And you see that and that hits the sparrow's deepest fear of, I'm too young, I'm a child, I don't understand what's going on, maybe I am stupid because I learn differently and I have a different brilliance, because you do. You have a different brilliance to the owl. So we have particular sensitivities within the personas with each other. And then when you've got a partner who comes in full bore, volume 10 out of 10, in the ones you don't have, and they're in child, my God, there's your lesson. There's your work. This is the work of life. That's relationship work. And them learning that they trigger you really badly means they need to take responsibility, as we need to take responsibility to be in child for as little of the time as possible. That is always, they're always going to have a sensitivity to that. My husband does not have Raven and he does not have Parrot. So if it's too Parrot, he just can't cope whatsoever. So it's my job, if I love him, to be sensitive to that fact and not ram it down his throat. When my Raven has already talked for that hour and 45 minutes about one particular thing in Nightingale, say, and he doesn't have Nightingale, and I talk about that, you know, I can last 5 minutes and then he's had enough. And that's fine. He's not a Nightingale. He doesn't want to hear about that. He always says, I'm just glad I don't have a Nightingale. Well, you know, I wouldn't have minded if he had a bit, but it doesn't matter. It's the contract. That's how it is. Love is, I'm not going to ram down your throats what you're not. I'm not going to insist that you, dog, start to become a lion and behave like I do and become a mini-me, which I think goes on a lot in relationships as well. Hi, Janine. Great to have you, darling. I hope Gracie gets here. Also, you know, we've got the beaver stuff where it needs to be about controlling. When you've got a strong beaver, I don't care whether it's male or female, and I've had people write into me about this. The beaver that's, you know, work, busy, security, money, and so exhausted, often doing jobs that they don't love. So their happiness is not high in their own lives. Hi, Vanessa, owl and dog mix. Great, so you're not having a lot of in-depth personal conversations then, Vanessa. Because the owl's very private, flies under the radar, and the dog doesn't know what they feel anyway. So, you know, what am I going to say? As my husband says, he's as deep as a Milo tin lid. Not a lot. And here he is marrying a raven, and he's supposed to go 10,000 steps deep. And he, you know, after he's got down to 3, he's had enough. Can we go back to the top now? Hi, Leanne. How do you feel about daily lives? Oh, fantastic, Katrina. Well, people put out requests. I feel like I just want to be here to do whatever people need and get this information out. Hi, sweetheart. So that's great if people are finding these helpful, because I never know. I don't sleep the night before. I feel like death warmed up every time because I'm awake all night as I'm thinking what I have to tell you. Then I'm half dead when I do them, and I'm always disappointed that I don't do them well enough. That's just me, people. Okay, we've got a raven owl lion dealing with a swan sparrow lion. For fuck, a swan sparrow lion? And you've just done couple counselling. Okay, I reckon what I might do on the next relationships one, you just want to have this conversation every day. Oh yeah, me too. What raven wouldn't? Can we just talk on a real level? Maybe I'll do little short ones each day, just a 15-minute hello. I don't know, I'll have a think about it. Tell me what you reckon, people, and what time of the day you want them. I reckon what might be fun to do in future ones, in future, hi Nadina, in future Relationship Live Cellmate to Soulmate series, would be to talk about specific relationships, like give me a top 3 to the other top 3, and I'll actually talk about them. So it's like you're getting free therapy on live. So I think I might do, yes, okay. So if you would like that for me to discuss, my husband or my wife or my partner has this and I've got that, and we could just have a little look at some combinations, because I tell you, they're endlessly fascinating. And they work like a treat. If you're both an adult, my God, you're just going to have fantastic ones. You're going to have fantastic growth and learning, but it's all about vulnerability. One of the most important things here is we've got to be able to own that we fuck up. And we're so defensive in child, saying that we don't, and we're so in blame and so undermining. And that's because we fear, yes, shorter ones. Obviously, I'm a beaver. You're so bibby. I know, I can't believe people watch an hour. I mean, I could go for 4, but I won't. Yeah, I get it. So we need short ones. Okay, so what we need to be able to do is get over yourselves, people. You're all fucked. You've all got shadow sides. You all need to own them. It doesn't make you unlovable. You're incredibly lovable. And in fact, if you own that you have these shadow traits, we love you even more. There's nothing like having a partner who loves you unconditionally, knowing your warts and all. That is just, but you've got to learn how to do that for yourself. You've got to fall in love with yourself and accept and own and feel the remorse of, my God, my shadow is powerful and it has really sabotaged love for me in every dimension of life. So we've really got to come to grips with who we are, then come to grips with who our partner is, then start having honest conversations. And a lot of the personas are emotionally lazy, but that's actually just a front for fear of, I'm scared if you get too close to me, you will reject me as I reject me. You will decide I am unlovable. And as I have no sense of self-love, if you decide you reject me, you've proven my deepest fear, so I'm just going to keep everyone away at arm's length. And that is the most painful way of living. It is an appalling way of living. I did it for a very, very long time. I know of which I speak. It's all about this terror that if I let someone in and they see me and I own that I can be awful, and I have been, that will prove I'm deeply unlovable, and then that's it. It's just not how it works. Do you see how simplistic and childish that is, that concept? When we're in child, we're irrational. We have these arguments with our partners that sound like 1 + 1 = 5. And when they're in child going off, or you're in child going off, you feel like you're going insane. It's like, oh my God, what planet are you from? If someone's screaming and going on and on and on and on to try and get something heard, it's quite likely they're in child and they can't articulate what it is. Another great tip to remember, when we're in child and we're triggered, we're feeling whatever we're feeling, the child can't articulate accurately what the real story is because we don't know it. We haven't got a clue. So we talk about what it isn't, and then either the partner is like, I just don't get what you're on about. What on earth are you going on about? It's like arguing with yourself, if you can be aware of it. Everything's about, thank you, Sienna, that's it. It's about practice the pause. It's about listen. It's about catch yourself in that moment. It's being super aware, like you've got a video of yourself looking at yourself. How am I right now? So like the other day when I mentioned that I was strung out because my beaver had too many things to do, and I feel a big responsibility about getting as much much of this work out to people as well as I can, but with as much integrity and just as well as I can, as quickly as I can. And at times I overload myself. It might surprise you, lion, quest, raven, beaver, crack the whip. So when my husband was able to come in gently and say that, I knew that, but I hadn't stopped during the day to give myself that space to just stop and reflect. What's the bit that's the one that's too much that I have to change? As soon as I got that, bang. So that's what we need to be in our relationships. We need to be very aware and mindful and connected with what we're feeling. It doesn't mean wallow, but it means I know what I'm feeling. I know maybe today is a foot and mouth disease day. Maybe I need to not come out with stuff at the moment. Boy, I'm really wanting to blame and judge today. My child is feeling so unlovable and so unloved and so rejected by me at the moment in the way I am treating myself, the choices I'm making for myself, the thoughts I am saying to myself. So that's my work, to go in there and reassure myself and start changing up what's going on. It's all about practice the pause, breathe, know what you're feeling, know what you've been saying to yourself. And then if you have got this relationship with a friend or with a partner, where you could just say, can I either go for coffee with my husband? I say, we need to go for coffee, or we need to go for a walk. So I just need to run something by with you. I just need to talk through something. I'm here and I need to go through the layers. Dog heaven, that's just what his dog and Sparrow want to do. But he's really good at it and he really listens. I don't want a solution. I just want to say, I'm here and I'm not quite sure what's the real story because I'm still in child. And off we go and we talk it through. And then I go, now I know what it is. And then as soon as I know what it is, I know what to do. And it just saves all this conflict and all this angst. So there's a lot of topics of where we can go with this, my lovely people. There's looking at when your partner triggers your missing animal, how to handle that. I would also like to say that when you love someone and are in a relationship with someone, not only do you need to love who they are unconditionally and get that they're up to where they're up to, you've both got to have a commitment to, we want to grow together and have an idea of what that might be. But you've also got to have an undertaking. I really get your history. I really understand your childhood. And I will understand there are things that in our relationship are a no-go zone. There's a no-go zone that I don't make jokes about that. I don't prod you about that. I don't deliberately say those sorts of things and say, oh, get over yourself, you're just so sensitive, because that is a place that you have actually lived and experienced which caused you pain and trauma previously. That I will love you enough, because love is actions. I will love you enough not to prod your vulnerable points, not to prod your sore points. And when you ask me respectfully, please don't do this, I will take that on board as a vow that I need to not do that. How are people going with what I'm just saying now and anything that they might want me to have a look at? I think what would be really good, my actual child triggers my missing animal, and I has, she has, your actual child, she has lion and I have dog. Interesting. Okay, his is his ex and mine is my crazy family. Exactly. We do get triggered by our missing animal, so we've got to be very, very mindful that that's the hardest skill for us to learn. Me learning like dog, oh my God, really, really, really hard. I've been saying all week that this work has the potential to change so many lives. It has the potential to change families, lives, communities, countries. It honestly does. If we start stepping up as adults, and the planet can't wait, if we start stepping up as adults and start walking love, not walking fear, because when we're in child cellmate, we're actually, everything is about defense and fear of unlovability. If we start moving from fear in ourselves and in our family lives and into love, we start becoming all about contribution. We start becoming all about what we came to do, and it's needed now. We need to start connecting with people. I want you people to meet each other and have coffees with each other and chat and talk, walk, love, to yourself and to others. I want you to invite other people who are lonely and stuck in their homes and have meaningful conversations where we're not just talking about the fucking Kardashians or whoever else it might be, or, you know, Big Brother as it was, or Bachelorette, or like we actually start getting into what life's about, that we start having meaningful support, so we don't need our partners to provide everything for us, that we get out there and we create what it is we feel a whole for, that we give that to our child and thereby give it to others. That is the secret to happiness in life. So what we could look at now, as we're finishing up, what we could look at now is, where am I today in my relationship with love? Am I friends with love? Am I a stranger? And am I an enemy of love? Have I unconsciously, but I'm being aware now, decided, fuck off love, I'm not risking it? That's a great tragedy, and that will bring out the worst of ourselves, and of course then our self-esteem goes down further and further and further. So we can forgive ourselves that we choose family replicas, because they're soul contracts, people. You were actually meant to choose those people. You were inevitably going to. It's a contract you made before you were born. It wasn't happily ever after. It was, I'm going to reflect to you your level of self-love. I'm going to reflect to you your shadows. I'm going to reflect to you where you are triggered and your wounds, that you can then walk away and go and heal for yourself. We can perhaps look at patterns of relationships where we are staying too long in a relationship where one person's fully in child. We've both been in child, but do both of you want to get out of child? And the only way you know that is if they can own their shadow, if they can be honest, and you start seeing actions of change. We're still going to make mistakes, but you've got to see the actions of change. The words of change are easy. I hear so often when people's relationships break up. I heard the other day someone saying, and my partner said, yes, I'm going to therapy. You're so right. I get it. I am all those things. So they start owning their shadow at the death throes of the relationship. And then they say, I'm going to have therapy. Fabulously. Yes, we consciously and unconsciously call them in, because that's where we're up to in our school of life. Exactly, Sienna. And when you finally learn those lessons, you get to go and have the big love, the soulmate love, but you get what you aim for. You get what you aim for. And if you're frightened of love and haven't got the love for yourself yet, you can't have it. You can't cheat. You cannot cheat love. You get where you're up to. So that's a profound thing to think of. But people will go and say, I'll go and have therapy now. I'll fix myself and I'll get it right. And then what often happens is you have the first really intimate, deep, proper conversation that you've ever wanted, that you always wanted with that partner at the death throes of the relationship. And you think, if we could talk like this, I'll stay. This is what I always wanted with you. But then it's gone. And if you say to the person, actually, there's no way I'm going back into the relationship, great, you go and get some therapy, you do some work on yourself, read this book, whatever. If you do that and say, but there's no coming back, this door is closed, I'm finished now, most of them, 95%, are going to stop therapy, because it was just the child trying to find a way to get back to mum, get back to dad, to get back to the old way of being. and I don't have to change, I don't have to grow up. So our relationship with love is very problematic, but it's everything in life. It's everything in life. I've covered a lot today. I've been all over the place. I hope it has been helpful. I hope there are things that you can go away and have a little think about for yourself. You deserve love. Everyone is worthy of love. Every single person has a divine love inside. Remember, we've talked about that circle of fire, which is our artillery to reject love. That's only there when you don't believe that you're worthy of love. You are. You're not the one exception on the planet. You are. So this work is the most important thing, and relationships, including friendships, will be a great reflector to you of where you are up to. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Let me know if Sundays are good. Let me know if a 5-minute or a 10-minute bit, I don't know, wow, could I talk for 5 minutes only? My parrot Raven will be struggling. You're going to rewatch. These are worth rewatching. And as I say, read the book over and over again. Next week, we're putting out for sale 10 Persona podcasts with Jessie Altham and myself. It's very irreverent, it's very funny, it's lots of for fuck's sakes, talking about the dark and the light of each persona. And we're going to use those funds to be able to give me some time to be able to write the book, get the children's stories out for Christmas, start getting education resources done, everything that from that work, from the podcast, the 10 Persona Pack, which will be out next week. They will be, all that money goes back into me being able to create more resources and still be able to eat at the same time. So I hope you'll take it, you'll love them, and you'll hear them over and over again. All right, my darlings, I love so much having you in my life. I'm so grateful that you are here. I'm so thrilled that you joined me. Can I encourage each and every one of you to go and join Persona Grata community, because people talk very honestly about where they're up to with their personas and their relationships. And it's a wonderful support avenue and educational avenue, and it's just a wonderful feeling of community. And I want this community to grow in very tangible ways, not just online. Much love, have a good week, practice the pause, and I have got such a great surprise for you next Sunday. We're doing a Fate and Destiny dialogue, and it's going to be wonderful. All right, have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you.